The hate list for pass catchers,
Yes.
headlined by Tyreek Hill. Yes, Matthew, Tyreek Hill, wide receiver 25 this week. He hasn't gone over 40 yards since week 1.
Dude, he's been bad. And it's not his fault. It's not his fault. It's his quarterback, right? In the 2 games since Tua Tagovailoa went down, he's got 7 receptions for 63 yards. Like, total. Like, that's a bad game for him in 1 game, and that's what he's done over 2 games. In those 2 games, he's wide receiver 63. He's averaging 7.6 fantasy points per game. You see it there on your screen, honestly. He had the huge game against the Jaguars in week 1, and it hasn't been great since. Only one team has a lower implied team total this week. They're implied, they're in the game against the Patriots where it's a 35.5 over-under as well. I'm at 25, but I mean, he's a dicey flex play, which is insane to think about Tyreek Hill. But we just, and hopefully Snoop Huntley gets on more of a page with Tyreek Hill, and maybe their timing's down a little bit better here. But and at least with Hill versus Waddle, feels like they'll do some jet sweeps and they'll do some bubble screens and they'll try to get the ball in his hands. So there's at least some hope there. But it's been bad. It's been bad for a couple weeks now.
Yeah, Connor, do you think that in Mike McDaniel's offense, which seems to be extremely complicated, that just an added week for Tyler Huntley is going to make a difference, like a significant difference, where Tyreek becomes usable? Now, Tyreek was 2 different plays away from having 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, but that offense, it looked like a preseason game.
It did. I don't know if another week's going to make that big of a difference. You're basically hoping that one of the 2 times he missed them last week, you hit 1 this week. That's what you're hoping for.
Yeah. By the way, and there's a chance, which is why he's at running back wide receiver 25, but there's also a chance that he continues what he's done over the past 2 weeks, which is wide receiver 63. It's a tough situation in Miami, and this is a conversation for another show, but just the Dolphins are 1-3. The Dolphins are 1-3. Let's say they lose to the Patriots here. They're 1-4. At what point? Let's say they split the next 2. Let's say they're 2-4. At what point do you say, "Hey, Tua, take the year"? You know what I mean? When it's the Jets are good, the Bills are good. It's a tough division, and you're also in the AFC with obviously the Chiefs, the Bengals, the Ravens, the Chargers. It's a really tough division. Feels like it's not the Dolphins' year, right? They just lost Jalen Phillips yesterday as well. It's awful.
Yeah, for the season.
Right, for the season. I feel bad for the Dolphins and their fans, obviously, but just feels like it's not their year. And so, this guy's your franchise quarterback. You guys are paying him, hundreds of millions of dollars. I guess my point, I think there's a very real chance, even if Tua gets cleared, even if he wants to come back, that we don't see Tua again this year because it just won't make football sense to risk him in a season that's lost.
Yep. Their schedules are at New England, bye, at Indianapolis, and then 2 would be eligible to come off IR, I believe, the following week against Arizona. If they're 1-5 going into that Arizona game, then I think it starts to get a little bit, we'll see what happens at that point. But I think if they're 2-4, I think he's probably just going to come back.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, by the way, that schedule doesn't seem terrible. There's a chance they could beat the Patriots. There's a chance they could beat the Colts,
against the Pats.
Yeah. So we'll see how it all plays out. But just something to keep in the back of your mind, I think, as we just talk about the entire Dolphins offense.
Jordan Addison also on the hate list here. He hasn't reached a 20% target share in a game since week 12 of last season, Jay, and that's without T.J. Hawkinson on the field this year right now.
Yep, that's the issue. T.J. Hawkinson looks like he's going to be back as well in the next few weeks, given that he's returning to practice. And the other thing is just that Jalen Naylor has become a thing in this offense. Aaron Jones gets utilized in the passing game. Justin Jefferson isn't even getting 35% target share or anything crazy at the moment. So there just doesn't seem to be, he seems to be the odd man out at the moment in that passing game.
Hasn't gotten a 20% target share in a game since week 12 of last season. Oh, by the way, he plays the Jets. Since the start of last year, no team has allowed fewer touchdowns to opposing wide receivers than your New York Football Jets. So, yeah, he's wide receiver 39 for me this week.
Jacoby Myers up next here. Denver has allowed the 3rd fewest fantasy points to wide receivers, Matthew. So while the targets might be good for Jacoby Myers, it's still going to be really tough to produce.
Devontae Adams is not going to play this week.
Or ever again for the Raiders.
Probably not. And so Jacoby Myers we talked about this earlier in the show, he's going to get the Pat Surtain treatment. And we've seen much better wide receivers, the DK Metcalfs of the world, that have Garrett Wilsons of the world.
Garrett Wilson.
Right,
yeah.
that have all due respect to Jacoby Myers, we've seen players much better than him get shut down by Patrick Surtain. So I'm at wide receiver 32 this week. Like I said, I'd pick up Myers because I think his value is really going to increase once this Adams trade happens, but not this week.
Kyle Pitts also on the hate list here, Jay. I mean, 6 points per game this season. It's just not happening for Kyle Pitts with a new coaching staff. Nothing's changed.
Yeah, Arthur Smith, all's forgiven.
Yeah, he drank free yesterday, by the way. Can you believe that?
Oh, really? Is that right? He had 0 catches last week. He has 15 targets on the season. He's just doing nothing. That offense just isn't throwing the ball at all either. Their offensive line is banged up. It's just all a bit of a mess at the moment. So they're still 2-2 and favorites to win tonight to go to 3-2. But I just think with Kyle Pitts, you have to see it before you have any confidence starting him. There are probably just tight ends on the waiver wire that you feel better about than Kyle Pitts, like the Hunter Henrys of the world at this point.
He's just not being. It's Ray McLeod, Drake London, and Darnell Mooney. That's the passing offense of the Falcons. By the way, they should be 1-3. They should not have won that game against the Saints.
0-4.
Yeah,
the Eagles
honestly,
as well.
Yeah, it's a good point. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotorWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.